Hello everyone, today we are going to continue in this video the portrait of a lady lesson 1 of Hornbill Reader of class 11. Okay, in last video we have learned how Arthur explained the relationship between her grandmother and his grandmother and his own, and when his parents were comfortably settled in the city, they were sent for the city, and that is the especially turning point of their relationship and friendship. And they living in the same room, but his grandmother no longer accompanied him to school because he used to go to English medium school. And after 5 years rolled by, after some years rolled by, they saw less to each other, and sometimes he continue wake up and get him ready for his school. And her grandmother disturbed sorry his grandmother disturbed to know that there was no teaching about good scripts, as well as the author was taught the music at his school. The grandmother come very sad, and she really talked to him after that. Okay, so they uh, telling the beads of a rosary, and silently he kissed their forehead his forehead. And when he come back after 5 years at home, uh, his grandmother met her at the station, but she didn't look a day older. And his grandmother still had no time for words, and while she clasped me her arms, and I could hear her reciting her prayers. Even the first day of my arrival, her happiest moment were with his sparrow, whom she fed longer, and with frivolous rebuks. Okay, here the frivolous means not seriously, that means taking lightly. And rebukes means scoldings. Okay, and after that, in the evening, a change come over her, and she did not pray. She collect the woman on of the neighborhood, got an old drum, and started to sing for several hours. She from the sagging. Here saggings means hanging down. Okay, and after that she uh, skins of the dis skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the home coming of warriors. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstanding. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. Okay, this is then author said. Then that is the first arrival of me. He she collect some women of their neighborhoods, and started singing, and got a old drum. And after that, she sang of the homecomings of warriors. Okay, after that, the next morning she was taken ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go, but my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. It was so sadly um, for all us. Okay, she that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. Okay, so here author expressed about her grandmother, his grandmother. There he has still no words, and when doctor said his grandmother has a mild fever, and here the her end was near, then author shocked, and only a few hours after the closure of the last chapter of her life, and she said that all these things and omitted to prayer, and she was not going to waste any time taking to us. We protested, but she ignored our protest, and she lay peacefully in bed praying and telling her beads. Even before he could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor uh, spread on her face, and she knew that she was dead. On that time, author said she lay peacefully in bed praying and telling her hands, and her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless finger, and she was spread on her face peacefully, and she knew that she was dead. Okay, we lifted her off the bed, and as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. After a few hours, morning, we left her alone to make arrangements of her funeral, and in the evening we went to her room with a crude stretchers to take her to be cremated, and the sun was setting, and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. Here author said, as a customary, when we was know about she was dead, then we lifted her off the bed, and as a customary, and covered her with a red shroud. After a few hours, we left her alone and make arrangement for her funeral. Here funeral means to burning the dead body. Okay, and in the evening we went to the room to crowd structure stretchers to take her to be cremated. The sun was setting on and had it lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. We stopped halfway in the courtyard, all over the veranda, and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff wrapped in the red shroud. Thousands of sparrow sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirping. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs, the way my grandmother used to. The threw it to them. The sparrow took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So here, author described after death of his grandmother, as a funeral, we make arrangement for her funeral, and after evening when we went to her room, some um, blaze of golden light entering in the veranda, and stopped halfway in the courtyard, and there when where she lay dead and stiff wrapped in the red shroud. On that moment, thousands of sparrows sat scared on the floor, and there was no chirping, because my grandmother spent so many times daily with the sparrow, and they give they gave she gave so many uh, times to spend with sparrow, and they so that's why sparrow sat scattered on the floor, and there was no chirping. That time, all over the veranda was very quiet place. On that time, we felt sorry for that birds, because my because our grandmother was dead on that time. She felt also. Birds also felt that grandmother was not live on that time. She broke it into little crumbs. My mother brings brought some bread for birds, but my grandmother used to giving on that time, so through to eat them. The sparrow took no notice of the bread, and next morning sweeper swept the bread crumbs and to the dustbin. That means um, the sparrow also noticed the grandmother was not alive. Okay, so in this story, The Portrait of a Lady, here author described the relationship between her grandmother and his grandmother and him, and here sketch shown through the author of their of his grandmother. Okay, so this lesson is over. I hope you understood this lesson properly. Okay, thank you.